taking the last 5 years off and reflecting on what I did in my 32 and a half years reminds me of the good things. And I hope people can remember the record. 41,000 cases taken up in Leicester, thousands of hours of surgeries, thousands of meetings that we've had trying to raise Leicester, even wearing a scarf when Leicester won the Premier League a few years ago. So these are important things to remind people of, but at the end of the day, it's a choice. They will decide who they want to vote for.
What do you say to people that you're going to split the vote rather than win it, and thereby potentially letting the Conservatives into what has been considered as a pretty safe Labour seat since you took over in 1987?
I think it ceased to be safe in 2019 when my majority went down from 22,000 to 6,000. And I had great pleasure in building up that majority, but I have never been tribal. I've always reached across. For example, in the work we did in the Home Affairs Select Committee, we reached across to David Cameron, who was Prime Minister, with Joanna Lumley, and we got the Gurkhas their rights to stay. We reached across to other politicians in other parties to get their support. I remember getting the support of George Galloway on an issue to do with visas in Bangladesh. So I think that with the experience we've got, I hope that I'll be able to continue to reach across and not be tribal. Of course, I retain my Labour values: equality, justice, social inclusion. These are there and will always be there, but I think the Conservatives now have adopted many of those values, and many people think there's not much difference between the two major parties. Certainly not in economic policy, because we're not going to have a budget till September if the government changes.
What would you say to Labour members who might say this is an absolute betrayal and that you're in it for yourself and not for anything else? This is your moment to come back, put things right. You've got unfinished business.
You're right, I have unfinished business. I think that working 24/7 for 32 years is pretty exhausting, and actually sitting back, in a sense, for the last 5 years allows you to look and focus on the things you really want to do. Without me in Parliament, Yemen has no voice. We've not really had debates on Yemen. People are dying there every day. Of course, Palestine is being raised, which is good, but I would have raised it in a different way. Issues such as the textile industry here, which has been decimated over the last few years, and council funding. I think it's a pretty serious thing when the Labour mayor of the city says to the Belgrade businesses, find the money because we don't have the money to do this. It is the biggest celebration anywhere outside India, and we will fight tooth and nail to make sure it stays. These are the things that make you say, I'm fed up. I'm fed up with what's going on. I want to speak my mind and speak truth to power.